Back in 2020, I released my second video which talks about my opinion of Pokemon, and I think it's fair to say that my opinion on it has since changed since then, and I think it's time for a redo. In that video, I compared features in between games and gave my ideas for the series as a whole. In this video, I'll be talking about what it has done right and wrong in the past few years, talk about the ideas I had back then, and give even more ideas to build upon the series. I won't be talking about Legends Arceus in this video, and I will instead be making a separate video on that game in the future, because I think it's worth having its own video. Anyways, let's get started. Since the video I made back in 2020, the expansion pass for Sword and Shield was completely released, with the Crown Tundra being the best experience to get out of it. As of the 25th anniversary celebration, the anticipated remakes to Diamond and Pearl were released, being titled Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and were very mixed in terms of basically everything it did. The biggest thing to come from it is Legend Arceus, an entirely new experience within the Pokemon franchise, set to rejuvenate the series with the first action RPG with a segmented open world and much more. Besides those two games, that's all that's happened in the mainline series since. Other things such as Pokemon Unite and New Pokemon Snap did release, however those are merely spin-offs. Now to what it has done right and wrong in the past year or two. First, I'll talk about the expansion pass. The Isle of Armor was released on June 2020 and let players visit a new wild area in the form of an isle, with the main story centralizing around the legendary Pokemon Kung-Fu and its evolution Urshifu. It leaned more into training your Pokemon and a competitive setting, as it gave you access to one of Urshifu's battle styles, which could be used in competitions as well. It also let you access restricted sparring and a wide variety of returning Pokemon. I don't think it's inherently bad, but I do think it should have been a free update considering the amount of story content and actual substance it gave to the game at all. Next up is the Crown Tundra, which released in October 2020 and let players visit an apparently never known southern part of the region. The main story centralized around 4 different missions, with Calyrex being the actual main mission to interact with. The rest are based around the Regis, the Galarian form legendary trio. The 4th one was a post-game exclusive mission dedicated to Necrozma and the Ultra Beast, which explained how the Dynamax adventures are even possible, but that was about it for that. I think the Crown Tundra actually deserves to be paid, but only for around $5 at the max. Overall, the expansion pass did lots, but not enough. I don't think it was a good replacement to the Verd version at all, as it did nothing to fix up the main game or add anything different to it like third versions would. Now to probably the worst part in recent times. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I genuinely don't know how to feel on them because it's like the developers had a meeting and said, let's make the most polarizing Pokemon remakes yet. But the funny thing is that, with most of the problems Pokemon has, it could 100% be fixed with more time into a more realized project that isn't just a one-to-one recreation that anyone could have done. With almost no platinum content and the arbitrary removal of quality of life improvements that have been in the Pokemon game since Black and White, and barely any new content which could have been achieved in a ROM hack, this is probably one of the worst games Pokemon has made to date, which could have been good if it has given more time, like father like son I guess. I do hope that Ilka gets a better chance at a Pokemon game in the future, however, with more time to develop and realize it. They know how to make a game, and the battle backgrounds prove that they know how to make a good looking game too. Anyways, that's enough about going off on this remake. Now to my previous ideas, my new ideas, and how many of those ideas have somewhat made it into the franchise through various amounts of feedback and criticism. The first idea I shared in my video back in 2020 is that Pokemon should get a renewed formula, where you are free to explore in a more open world-like setting. This has happened with Legends Arceus, but again, I'm not going to talk about that now. The second idea is that roaming Pokemon, which is actually referred to as overworld Pokemon, could be dealt with better and maybe interact with the environment. I'm not sure how far Game Freak has gone to with Pokemon interactions in the world of Legends. However, there is still a lot more interaction between the player and wild Pokemon from trailers that I've seen, which is really exciting to think about. The third idea was to replace power points, aka PP, with something like mana or energy, which would be a stat number that increases with leveling up or items and is depleted in battle when moves are used. This is something that hasn't been changed, however I do think this would be a neat idea to use in the future unless they find a solution to strategizing PP. The fourth idea had to do with explorability and adding more things to do, such as extra gyms, bosses at the end of routes or secret route bosses, and a second Pokemon League. Now I don't think having another Pokemon League would even work, and I think it's meant to be more of a unique area where you fight your way to the champion. It's not even like the Pokemon League is the same anymore, with Sword and Shield changing the Pokemon League formula to where there's no special Elite Four chamber, and Pokemon Legends Arceus has done away with the League and Gyms formula completely. Extra gyms could work, however. Have at least 4 or more post-game gyms you could challenge, and badges could act as passes into new areas where a legendary or different kind of Pokemon you've never encountered before then are awaiting. Maybe once you obtain all 4 post-game badges, you gain access to something like the Battle Frontier or a true ending type of ordeal where you fight a secret final boss. Now that I've looked back and gave some more thoughts on the ideas I presented back in 2020, let's get into a few new ideas I have for the series as a whole. My ideas this time around aren't in regards to singular features like route bosses. Instead, my ideas will be suggestions on what the series could have in terms of community and longevity. My first new idea is to have a longer DLC season which lasts 2 years. Not only would this help new generations last longer, but I think it would give more time to Game Freak's main team to focus on new projects. I don't think each DLC should be the same length or have the same amount of content. Maybe have smaller DLCs that add on to the game cosmetically and add enchantments to the game that make it feel fresh in a certain way. Bigger ones could be dedicated to the end of a year, sort of how the Crown Tundra was released last and was mostly bigger than the Isle of Armor. Another sub-idea is to just not make DLC at all and just continue on to other projects. I think that may help the time problems that Game Freak has somewhat. My second idea is to open up a feedback website where people can post ideas and other criticisms they may have towards games, something similar to what Minecraft currently has with their feedback site. This could help developers to get a better feeling of what people want if there is a language barrier in that regard, and they could just keep everything in one spot instead of having to go through 100 threads on why X, Y, or bad games almost 10 years after release. Lastly, my third idea is to add better accessibility settings. I already know about the UX question one of the developers at Creatures Inc. asked the community on Twitter back in 2020. However, we still have yet to see on what Legends accomplishes in that regard. Colorblind settings, text-to-speech settings, subtitles in regard to everything that happens in the world and not just character dialogue, and so much more could be added to enhance the experience for people who may have trouble playing these games. Hell, if they added colorblind settings, they'd already be a decade ahead of Nintendo themselves in terms of accessibility. And yeah, that's pretty much all of my new ideas. All in all, my opinion of Pokemon has changed in the fact that I know Game Freak isn't just a corporate entity. It's a large company with people with lives. You can't just punch in and demand everything you want, and you can't just say something sucks without telling them why something sucks. And that goes for every developer out there, not just Game Freak. Tell the developers what's wrong with a specific thing in their game instead of just yelling at how bad it is and calling them lazy. That could be demotivating for them, and it really just doesn't help anybody or them. Be constructive when voicing your feedback. Everyone. Game development is hard. Designing a game is hard, and I shouldn't be having to say this. Understand that these people have lives, and that games aren't just made. They take time. Anyways, that's about it. See ya.